Well, my hair's a mess, and I can't do this unless my hair's not a mess. Plus, I do this like 15 times a day when I want to impress people, so I want to know what it looks like. Yeah, I think it's worth the effort. So, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I just went for my first leisurely walk around my community. For the first time, I've felt stable enough to really just take the time to go for a walk for no reason, just to I'm not even specifically to explore, but kind of to explore. Um, yeah, it's just been busy and chaos and a lot so far. Um, I think I left. I mean, God, what the fuck is today's date? The 11th. So I left Canada a month and a half ago, and I've been out of quarantine for 3 weeks. So I was in quarantine for 3 weeks. I left late January, arrived very late January, just enough time to disappoint mom and miss her birthday. Spent 3 weeks in a single room. It wasn't that bad. It was a superbly luxurious, beautiful hotel room. You could fit 4 of my apartments in it and still have room to spare. Honestly, you could probably fit this room in that room 6 times, and it would be fine. And I arrogantly had the thought when I was there, I was like, hey, if this is what I ended up with, like, this could be okay. This is not even close to that level of luxury. But I got home from work today and had dinner and had my evening shower and just thought, you know what, no, I'm getting dressed. I'm going back outside. I feel like it. So got outside, stuck my mask in my pocket, and just wandered around my little community. And I'm in like a gated community, but also not quite. It's more like I don't know what to call it. It's like a downtown municipal compound. Um, and it took me like 45 minutes to wander in or around, like kind of do a perimeter. Halfway through, I was like, yeah, there's a convenience store, one of like 7 that I passed. So I wandered in and got a beer and drank my beer as I wandered around. Not my absolute favorite thing about China, but definitely one of the little tiny, like, silly perks is that I can just do that. And it was just nice. And then I gotten back near my place, so I stopped at my favorite one, where they helped me with water when I first got here. And I bought an ice cream because I could. And then I got back home and realized, yeah, this is the first time that I've felt stable and calm and like things are where they should be now. So most common questions. This is basically a digital FAQ to my time in China. So the 2 things I get asked about the most are weather and food. The weather makes... I don't want to speak ill of Canada because home. But for years I have been saying, like asking, like, why did people move here in the first place? Why did people choose to live somewhere where the weather hates you? And I mean, it's not a big detail, big scale, but I wanted to be somewhere where the worst of the times didn't punch me in the face and make my eyes and my toes hurt all the time. So we're coming out of winter. We're in the early spring here. The days, reach the mid-20s, I guess, where even when I'm in my sports gear outside, my little Under Armour shorts and my, sport polo, I can feel the sun beating on me. I got pretty badly sunburned on my first weekend here on a camping trip, that I'm only starting to like feel normal from. And I expected that. That was, something that I read about ahead of time. What I did not expect was the fucking cold nights. I read that apartment buildings in general in Shenzhen are not insulated at all. That's not something that is part of the standard infrastructure. And the winters, generally, they stay in like the mid-teens, but you'll get like a couple of weeks where it'll drop to 4, and that's when everyone's a little bit screwed. So when I first got here, when I first had my apartment, I went shopping and I went to IKEA almost the first day, and I bought, like some basic bedding and a blanket, thinking, like this is kind of like what mom would have had on top of her comforter. The like it's a blanket, it's not a sheet, but it's like quite thin. And the first night I was so frigid, I pulled my sleeping bag back out, put it on top, and that was the only way that I was able to fall back asleep. Um, and I was just not okay. So I had to go back to IKEA, get a much thicker, like your standard indigo fuzzy blanket. And between those, I'm perfect. I'm sleeping beautifully. Um, I mean, I'll wake up most mornings and it's cold enough that I don't want to get out of bed, but I know that within an hour, like the morning fog is going to clear and I'm going to have a super bright day. It doesn't rain as much as it was suggested to me that it would, but I'm also told that that's going to get much worse fairly soon, and that I'm going to dislike summer here as much as I disliked winter in Canada. I doubt it, but we'll see. Um, Summers here this close to the South China Sea with that much exposure to that kind of weather and wind um, means that it rains a lot in the summer, and typhoon season means that once or twice a summer there will be the kind of storm that shuts the city down, all the schools close, nobody goes anywhere. So that's something to look forward to. The other big question I get a lot is about food. Um, Chinese food, like I have read 100 times, Chinese food is not what I grew up eating at Lucky Star Mandarin for my earliest birthdays. Sorry, Lucky Star buffet or Mandarin buffet later. Um, like thematically similar, but not the same. Um, I got a taste of it at the hotel quarantine where all my meals were provided all the time. Um, and so far that has maintained pretty consistently. I haven't done as much exploring. I have, but I haven't done as much exploring as I would have liked to, culinarily speaking. Um, just because I got, like within a few days of being out of the hotel. So the first day out of the hotel, I met up with a new friend, went out and got some hot pot, got to experience the authentic, like of that experience. Have not had a peanut scare yet, but had the like, oh, this is going to be a conversation, that I'm going to have, and communication is going to be difficult. Um, got my first, meat on a stick, which I think was lamb, but who knows. So I've gotten a lot of those little moments, but then I get to the school a few days later and I'm on the grand tour and they're like, oh, this isn't like just a little school. The reason why it's on the edge of the city is because it's only 4 or 5 years old and it is so large we need a bigger space physically to build it. So like it's a campus. It's 2,800 students. I think it's 100 or more teachers. It's got to be. I could do the math, but I'm not sure. Um, and like just for scale, any school that has a foreign teacher gets to brag. Like it's a legit flex. And this school has enough money that they can hire 4 foreign teachers, including one who doesn't only teach English, and that is a huge, huge accomplishment and flex for them. There are like economic and political complications attached to that, but I'm not here to even entertain that nonsense. Um, and so part of the tour, they were saying, oh, like, do you think you're going to eat on campus? And I said, well, like, what does that entail? And they're like, well, most teachers eat lunch here. Foreign teachers eat for free because we want you to feel welcome. And I was like, well, what do you mean, like just lunch? And they're like, well, you can have breakfast and dinner. Like if you come, you need to be here for 8:30, but if you're here, by like 8:10, you can have breakfast. So like this morning, I happened to wake up before my 6:30 alarm. I got a great night's sleep. I happened to catch the bus as it was rolling up. I happened to get great traffic, so I got off my bus at like 8:09. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll check out breakfast. And it's very consistent to my hotel quarantine breakfast. This country loves its carbs. So I had a couple of steamed buns and a hard-boiled egg and some noodles and some tiny steamed sweet potatoes. Um, and that was just a nice little breakfast that they just provide, and then came back for lunch. And if I ever had to stay on campus late, they would provide dinner. So they said, if you want to do something with the clubs, or if you just want to participate in any way after school, if you're here, I think it's 6 or 6:30, then we serve dinner, and then you could eat all 3 meals here for free. And I thought, okay, well, I don't want that many carbs, and I love that idea, but I do value it's a long day. I'm there I'm up at 6:30, and then I'm at the school from 8:30 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. That's a long enough day. So generally, I just do my coffee in the morning. In the 2.5 weeks I've been teaching, I've had breakfast there twice. I have lunch there every day because why wouldn't I? And then usually on the way home from the school, I get off my bus and I just wander around until I see some street vendor where I think that looks interesting, or one of these tiny restaurants with, like 4 seats, in my compound, and I'll struggle with this for, 15 minutes to get myself a bowl of noodles with some very fully formed shrimp that I'll perform surgery on later. I don't think I can eat a shrimp whole yet. That's not going to happen anytime soon. Um, uh, and yeah, that's what food has been like. Yesterday when I got home from school, I stopped by a place that had been on my mind to get to, and so they've got a neat system where you fill out your little plastic thing, and for 10 yuan, for like $2, you get as much of the veggies and starches as you like. So I usually do like half potato and half lotus flower root, which I've discovered I love. But I haven't been brave enough to go after their meats yet. And I thought, okay, well, I need some protein because I need some protein. So I was looking at the sausages and I thought, okay, well, I'll do a couple of those. And I'm like, okay, they've got like a chicken breast or wing or something. And so I was trying to put it in the plastic, and they're like, no, no, no. Then they give me the tray. They're like, you put it on the tray. So I'm like, okay. So I put it on the tray, and then she takes it back. And at first I thought in the hotel, and I think this is culturally sensitive enough. If it's not, I pre-apologize. But like I'm not used to eating around bones this much, especially if the meat's chopped up. It just seemed to be this thing, and I'm just not habituated to it. But like half the meat that I ate in the hotel was just meat around a bone constantly. So here I'm like, great, well, I can take this chicken breast thing home. I can debone it myself, no problem. And so they take it, and I thought, oh, maybe they're going to do that for me. No. She takes it to the counter, out comes the cleaver, chop, 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 chop. So now I've got this like bony chicken breast and thing and my sausages, and I was like, whatever. So I get home, take it out. They were not sausages. I think they were chicken necks. I'm not sure. Not a lot of meat on fat, assuming that's what that was. The bone and tissue in it is quite durable, so I did my best. I mean, I thought, I had chicken feet on the camping trip. I didn't find that meat to be too particularly tasty, but the thing that like fucked me up was like just, you bite through the knuckles. That's how you separate it. And then you just kind of suck the meat off the knuckle, and then you spit the knuckle out. And that's a lot of like biology to be thinking about that I didn't love. Whereas the necks, when you got a good chunk of meat out of the bone, it was a good piece of meat. Will I get neck again? Probably not. um, I think my favorite weird meat that I had was still the camel sausages with Eric in Ouarzazate, but this is good. I think next time I might just get the chicken and just say don't chop it. It's fine. Charge me the same amount. I'm not asking for a deal. Just leave the friggin' bone alone so I can deal with it at home. But yeah, that's been my experience here. A lot of hot dogs and sausages and stuff on sticks. that they then cut into interesting shapes and just grill the heck out of. So I usually will get, 4 or 6 of those on the way home, depending on how hungry I am. And then like a little side thing of veggies. But yeah, that's been my experience with food here. Um, the grocery stores are similarly priced. When you're out and about, food is crazy cheap. So I finally understand or have experienced what I've been told about um, the cost effectiveness of eating out. So despite the fact that my kitchen is a counter, just a counter, I now also have a hot plate and a cast iron wok that I don't know if I'll ever use. Because I don't have groceries, because I don't need to have groceries. It just doesn't, it's not the economic choice. It's not the timely economic choice. I mean, I definitely want to have, like, I've got my thing of almonds and, like other non-perishables for just in case. But there's just no point in that level of effort that I have to then pay for, as opposed to saving time and money. Um, so, sorry, Mom, I'm going to keep buying food and not groceries. Um, but yeah, so that's weather, that's food. We're at 16 minutes, and I have no idea how long of a thing I can update to Instagram eventually. The apartment hunt was both more dramatic and a lot less than I thought. So yes, I did end up with an agent, but he was brilliant. The first place he took me to, not great, but the friend who came with me knew the questions to ask, and we got that all sorted out. So I missed out on an hour-long commute to school that would have had a 20-minute walk to the subway, which would take me to the bus, and instead I am in the heart of the Bowen district. I'm across the street from the second biggest mall in Bowen, and that's like right there. But over there is the greatest little like food market. All the stalls and all the restaurants there are like 100 square feet. And the compound that I'm in, like the buildings are 15 stories tall, but quite narrow. I think it's 7 or 8 apartments per stall, per floor. So they have kind of a mini community feel, and like everywhere I look, there's just like another little tiny grocery store with dragon fruit the size of a bowling ball, or like this noodle shop or that like sausage stand. It's I almost don't need to leave the compound. So if there is a lockdown, and the whole point of the compound is that there's only 4 gates at the 4 main areas, so they can lock us in, which is, do you want to know why Canada sucks at COVID? Because when they're like, please stay home, they're like, but do whatever you want. So here, like I have been saying, when they're like, no, please stay home, the gates get locked, the soldiers come out, and like, you stay. And hey, guess what? They have like 10 cases a day instead of 3,000. So I wouldn't have to go anywhere. Like, it would all be right there, ready and waiting. Everything I possibly need is in this little area. What? What's going on? This is my first time. Go easy on me. Where was I? Canada's not handling COVID well. Confusingly, China's doing a brilliant job of it. And I love my tiny, tiny apartment. I think the only place I've lived smaller than this was Tatum Hall. I think every other apartment or sub-apartment I've ever owned was significantly larger than this, or rented. But yeah, so he brought me to this building, and like we got out of the subway, 90 seconds later we were in this building. Showed me 3 apartments. The one with the loft was like the sexiest, but probably the least convenient. And now that I've been in this one for a while, I'm really glad this is the one I took. So the first one was like the loft. The second one was the balcony. But it wasn't big enough that I could fit any kind of like chair on. There was nothing. I'm pretty sure it's what would qualify as like a smoker's balcony, where like, yeah, it would have the easiest access to the drying rack, but outside of that, like, I mean, you just stand on it, you smoke, you have a drink, and then that's all you can do. Whereas this is the only one that had 2 windows. So I've got the little window by the shower, and then I've got this huge window with the giant extra seat or shelf or whatever I want, and I've got this huge view of across the street, and I'm just high enough that I can see over the curbside buildings, whatever's on the main strip there. So I feel like I can see Shenzhen, and because I've got two windows, I can actually get a draft going. And I've got the best lighting out of the three. So despite the fact that it was like a sexy loft, an actual balcony, or one window, the window won so hard. Not even like once I was in here, I was like, this is where I want to be. Um, but yeah, my kitchen is a counter. I bought a bowl from IKEA to be a sink, just so that if I needed to like water or anything, dishes, that's there. I've used it twice. I do have a hot plate and a wok that I don't know that I'll ever use. The only sink I have is in the washroom, and the washroom is like 3 by 5 feet and includes a sink, toilet, and a shower, kind of in the same space, like in an RV. It's like an RV shower. You could sit and shower at the same time if the water pressure was a little better. But I don't feel like I'm missing out on the kitchen because of my food situation. I wouldn't use it if I had it. But having my own washing machine in this tiny apartment, I have wanted that for so long, and I'm so happy with that. So I just did some laundry before I went and had oh yeah, I've got mosquitoes in February and March, so that's the weather I'm having. Um, yeah, do some laundry, and then you just hang it up, and the next day it's good to go. Um, and then in the mornings, so I get up at 6:30. I walk past the subway by about 2 seconds, which takes me to the bus stop. And at first, I thought, no, I really want like a sexy subway commute. But when I'm like waiting at the bus, the commute into the subway is reminiscent of your like stereotypical like New York, rush hour subway, where people are lining up very, very organizedly. The self-control is brilliant. Nobody's trying to butt in line, and this line of like 2 by 2 goes about a block and a half. And I kind of cut through them, and I get in front of the bus stop, and then the M330 comes along, and I hop on and I tap my Hello Kitty card, almost a Presto card, and then I grab a seat. And then 25, 30 minutes later, I get to my school. I have never not had a seat. I'm now comfortable enough that I'm reading. I'm not worried about, like when I'm getting off. And about 20 minutes into it, I see more trees than buildings. And then all of a sudden there's the mountain. And then when the ravine is on my right, I'm like, okay, I'm close. And when I go under the bridge, I'm like, I'm the next stop off. And then I hop out, and it's like right at the edge, I think, of the Baolan district. So it's a lot of open space, so you don't get that city feel, but they're hop, skip, and jump away. And then I'm on my giant campus. And then speaking of this school, I feel like I've won the lottery. Like that's how happy I am with this school. It was sponsored by Qingdao. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Maybe not actually sponsored. I don't want to get sued. But so I've got something like 18 TEFL certificates, maybe not quite 18, but well over a dozen. 550 hours of TEFL certification. And when I was in quarantine, the idea was once I'm out of quarantine, they'll set up some specific interviews with specific schools because, according to China, it's agencies that are allowed to bring teachers over, not schools. So that's that detail. I don't really know. That's what was explained to me, whatever. But in the middle of quarantine, the agency reached out to me and said, Matthew, this school wants you so badly, they want to have an online interview. Is that okay with you? I was like, yeah, I got nothing else to do. I'm stuck in a hotel for 3 weeks. And so they said, here's the thing, though. It's for a PE position. I'm like physical education, like gym? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, it's an interview, and I'll take it. And if they want me that much, of course I'll take it. I'll do them the respect of having an interview. But I didn't travel 12,520 kilometers to teach gym. I think that's fair. All of the effort that I've put into was to be a language teacher. My future is in language. I love fitness, and I have loved being a part of fitness at York. And God knows, Dynamax, there it is. Dynamax is still my favorite room on the planet. Um, and York University does not deserve Dynamax. Um, but fitness isn't where I want to pursue the rest of my time. It's what it's going to transition into more of a hobby to me than anything else. And they're like, Matthew, just take the fucking interview. And I was like, okay. So I had the interview with 9 people. There was the main interviewer with one of my agency reps, and then a couple other teachers, and then the head of the fitness department, and the principal and the vice principal, and they're mostly observing. And who is now my contact teacher was doing the translating for the rest of them, and the head PE teacher was sort of like specifically asking the fitness-based questions. And to summarize that, my entire communication was, no, I don't know too much about sports or sports techniques or rules. If I really need, like, if you want me to like play some football, I'm gonna have to talk to Austin or Khalil and be like, hey guys, what the fuck's up? If you want me to like do any kind of American football, I'll talk to Joey. If you want me to talk, do some like basketball drills, like Sajith, I think. But like I don't. But if what you want is fitness, I can do fitness. And so they're like examples, and I'm like, well, Canadian law enforcement has a very strict regiment that they're looking for, and I have never failed to exceed those expectations despite, drama farther down that application process. And I have helped other people find success within that same testing process. And I described what that's like, and then they explained, for Chinese kids to graduate out of elementary school and into high school, it's not just strict intelligence-based academia, there's also a physical component. So like one part is, for example, the boys have a certain time they have to meet on a 1,000-meter run, girls a certain time to meet on the 800-meter run, and it's scaled from 0 to 100 but up to 120. So there's like fail, there's perfect pass, and then there's ideal. So if you're lacking somewhere else, you can kind of find your bonus points. And there's a huge number of things that they're testing for. So they said, can you help us increase the number of students? And I was like, yeah, that is my wheelhouse. If you like, I'm never going to be the one who's like, hey, maybe we'll play basketball today. I'm like, no, we're going to drill this shit over and over again, and I'm going to train your little soldiers until, we will get these numbers up. And they were like, okay. So they offered me the job, PE only, and I said no. And I think that confused them a lot. Because they really, really wanted to understand, and I just reiterated. And so they came back later, and we talked about it some more. And they said, okay, well, what about half and half? And I was like, honestly, I was hoping you would say that. That would be great, because teaching English brand new is going to stress me the fuck out, because as much as I want to do this, it's also a career change for the first time in 13 years. I've been working the same job for 13 years, and it has changed who I am as a person. So I've developed a lot in terms of things like, leadership and a specific brand of confidence. I'm going to call it confident bracket asshole bracket. And like public speaking, absolutely. I wouldn't have been able to do this 10 years ago. I would have had a panic attack thinking about it. But in this case, it's such a radical change and such a different skill set that despite all my certification, the idea of being able to, for all intents and purposes, practice my language education skills while also being able to continue to practice, enjoy, and develop my sharing of fitness, which, if anyone knows me, knows has become one of the biggest parts of my personalities. That's just a great day. And they're like, awesome. They want you to teach grade 1 English and grade 7 gym. So the grade 7s have 2 more years. Elementary school, if I understand correctly, goes up to grade 9. So I would be getting the ones who are now thinking about what their tests look like. But with the grade 1s, it's just like, it's practice. Like you can't upset them. So just, and I thought, this is great. And then I saw the schedule, and I thought in the morning, 1 to 3 language classes per day, and in the afternoon, 1 to 3 PE classes per day. And it's, there's a couple where I have nothing. Like Thursday, I have 1 PE class. That's my entire day. So today's great. Um, and I thought, oh, this is even better than I thought. Like this could be really good. And then when I got the tour of the actual facility, um, I saw how giant the campus is, and I had been thinking like, was this one of those like schools or countries or cities where like I'm not supposed to wear my shoes, like I take my socks off when I get inside? There kind of isn't an inside. Like there's offices and there's classrooms, but like Mom suggested in the picture that I stored yesterday, it looks like an apartment building where it's just like outdoor balconies and doors and windows, but all of those doors and windows are classrooms. There's no indoor hallway anywhere. You're either outside or you're in the classroom, and then you're back outside, and everything's covered, so everything's safe from the weather. Um, but like it's fresh air and a breeze and sunlight all day, every day. Um, and my PE classes are so far exclusively outside. So I get to spend my morning in these bright, wonderful, huge classrooms with 50 students, although now 25. That's a weird thing. And then I get changed. Then I go have lunch at the canteen, and usually it's with the other foreign teachers and some of the other, like either like Chinese English teachers or the PE teachers or whoever is around. Um, and then I didn't know this was a thing. And then China goes to sleep. So lunch in China is about 2 hours, from noon till 2. Noon till 1 is eating, and 1 till 2 is nap time. Siesta, I don't know. And I don't know. I've never been a good napper. So while the rest of China goes to bed, I get changed and I go to the exclusive, private, teachers-only gym that feels like Dynamax, but if Dynamax had money, or if Dynamax had money like the one year that I went over budget. Um, and I have a great workout. And then when lunch is done, it's time for PE, and I'm already in my gear. I'm in my athletic, packed-themed polos and my little Under Armour shorts and my running shoes. And so I put my whistle on, and I feel like, Master Drill Sergeant Matthew Thompson. And then I go out and I get ready. And I usually have 10 or 15 minutes. So I just do laps on the track while I wait for the kids to go up. And the actual track kids lose their friggin' mind when they see me running, and then they start running faster to catch up. So this is just like this glorious ecosystem that I've been given access to, and I absolutely love it. Um, and so teaching PE is different than all the fitness stuff I've ever done. I'm used to like one-on-one coaching for an hour or more, and this is 50 students at a time for 40 minutes strict. Bearing in mind that I got Ni Hao and Xie and Wo Chu Mian and not much else. I still have to learn how to actually say I'm allergic to peanuts in Chinese. Nobody uses the word Mandarin here. It's the common one, so it's just Chinese. For years I've been saying there's no language called Chinese, and here it's just Chinese. If you speak one of the smaller dialects, whether it's Cantonese or anything else, then yeah, you can refer to it. But when I'm like, oh, when are the Mandarin lessons? People look at me like I'm crazy. So I don't speak much of what the kids speak, and the kids speak a little bit of what I speak. So I start at the beginning of most classes by getting them lined up in, drill sergeant rows, and I'm just like, best English? And usually, like, all the girls will grab one and shove her forward, and all the boys will grab one and shove him forward, and they'll come forward and like, I don't want to. And then I will say, okay, this is what we're doing. 5 exercises, 30 seconds at a time, 5-second rest in between. And then they're like, okay, what we're going to do is, and then they'll mumble it out in Chinese. And then I grab my stopwatch and I violently shout through my diaphragm with all the fortitude of a drill sergeant, ready, 3, 2, 1, go. And good God, they move. And it works. Like, it's a struggle now, but it is absolutely working. And the PE department loves me, and I feel so happy and welcome and comfortable. Um, like I want to start inviting them to go do stuff. They keep asking me to come work out, but they sleep and I work out, and then at the end of the day, they want to work out, and I'm like, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go. I gotta go home. Like you guys mostly live on campus, upstairs in the canteen. I've got like I'm on the other side of the city, so I got stuff to do. Um, Plus, for like a week, every day after school, I had plans, most of which was go to IKEA, to go to the grocery store to get like the kettle and stuff, go try and find the Walmart. Um, but I do want to start actually like cultivating some of these friendships and turning them into something. Um, and the English teachers, I hesitate to say this because of the obvious reasons. But so the PE department is almost all men, and they have fully accepted me, and it's brilliant. The Chinese teachers, the English teachers, the women love me, and the like three dudes don't seem to love me. Um, and I'm just there doing my job, which feels a lot like babysitting grade ones. So mostly I feel completely welcomed by the school, and for every dirty look I get 99 delightful, like welcoming comments. Um, I don't think I'm ever going to get bored of crossing the giant courtyard and having a like, hello teacher, hello, like every 20 seconds. It just makes my day. And that's happened a couple of times off campus where I'm like, oh yeah, I know you. I taught you ostrich. I taught you ostrich yesterday. Um, and I friggin' love that. Although I do wish I had like an actual name tag that said like Lao Shu Mashu, like Teacher Matthew, just so that when that happens, people are like, oh, he's an English teacher. He's not a creep. Um, but I'm a white dude in China, so I'm probably a teacher. Um, and yeah, teaching grade ones. When I put the whistle and the stopwatch on to teach the grade sevens, I become Master Drill Sergeant Matthew. When I walked across the courtyard the first time to go teach a grade one English class, I swear to God, the only thing that kept me from having a panic attack and like falling down on those stones was the idea that there would be like 1,000 tiny witnesses, and I thought that's not a good first impression. Um, so the first week was a challenge. Uh, I did not love the first couple of days of language instruction because I had no idea what I was doing in a really specific context. Um, because I thought I was hired to teach English, and it turns out I was hired to teach oral English in a really specific way. And so there already are English teachers. This was news to me. So the foreign teachers that they hire are there to teach phonics. And so I had, there's training every Wednesday, and I expressed some of this to the trainer, and he's like, Matthew, I figured it out. Don't worry about it. Um, you are way too in your own head about this. You're way too serious. I get it. You're trained for teaching business English to specialized units as adults. You're trained to teach, adults and teenagers, like general casual English, and you're technically but not enthusiastically trained to teach children. But here you are. So first, you got to lose some of the seriousness. You just have to let it go. And second, you have to realize that your job is to make teaching English fun. That's it. That's what the job is. So like, yeah, you're going to be teaching, like dog, dot, doc, duck. Like that's next week. Next week is B and D and how they are the same and not the same. And the doctor keeps his bag at his desk, big Dr. Bob. Um, But at first I thought, like, I don't know how to fucking talk to 1-year-olds. And he's like, well, like, do you have nephews? And then I just thought about James. What's up, James? When I bought him the Lego fire truck. And I didn't get on, like, I didn't, like, here it is, like, okay, the good strategy for the separation. No, I got on the floor. I wiggled under the Christmas tree because my legs didn't really go anywhere else. And I just showed him how to separate the colors and how to organize the sizes. And then we put it together. Um, and he's like, yeah, it's that. It's like, what did you like when you were 5 years old? What do 5-year-olds like, So I got that idea, and he's like, little things. Like, I studied TPR, total physical response, very briefly in one of my certificates, but I didn't think I was ever going to be teaching kids, so it wasn't ever something that I cultivated. Um, and he's like, everything's TPR now, literally everything. If you're teaching the word on, you pick up a book and you put it on your head, and then you leave it there for a minute, and the kids will lose their shit. So um, I taught the letter O last week, and one of the words is ox. And if anyone remembers, Kevin Costner Dances with Wolves when he's attempting to speak with the indigenous folk, and he's like, oh, and they're like, oh, Tatanka, Tatanka. And I'm like, do you know why I still remember that the word was Tatanka? Because Kevin Costner TPR'd me, and that, like, I see that, and I'm like, bison, or ox. So I did that, and all the kids are like, and I'm like, holy shit, it works. And then I did umbrella, and I was like, and all the kids are like, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. And he's like, you should also start the day with the hello song. So if you YouTube, what is it? The Dancing Walrus hello song. It's about 2 minutes long. It's mostly dancing chickens, and I do that dance 2 or 3 times a day, every weekday. I'm getting pretty good at it. I don't have the whole thing memorized, but when the circle of them go, the one with the bow tie, he's my favorite. And it's just like it's just getting the seriousness out for like a minute, and I can already feel myself like a little bit happier. I don't know how else to describe it, but like whatever security did to me for 13 years in dealing with the things that I dealt with and the kinds of interaction that I was no longer enjoying having, or dealing with dead bodies on campus, like the kind of stuff that you do when you wear a bulletproof vest for 13 years. That was starting to make me not like who I was. And so dealing with these kids, like I like who I am better after 2 weeks of this. And so I feel like this was a good change. Like this was a good positive thing for me to do, to be here to do this. And despite the fact that I had no real intent of spending this much time with giant classrooms filled with 50 or 25 5 or 6-year-olds, I don't know. I love it. Like I was doing lesson planning all this morning. Thursday mornings we don't have classes, it's just lesson planning. And so next week is B and D. And like I realized I'm getting into this. And it's like it's only grade 1, which means I make one lesson plan and I do it 8 times. And in the afternoon it's only grade 7, so I make one fitness plan and I do it 8 times. So I'm radically aware that that is a unique privilege, might be the right word, that most teachers might not have access to if you've got more variety. But like, holy damn, I'm like getting excited about thinking about ways that I can help these kids hear the sounds that they need to hear and then reproduce the sounds that they need to practice. And I mean, yeah, I have rough kids who aren't super participatory, but I'm also learning more about Chinese culture and how to address stuff like that. So if I've got like a little pocket and I'm, like the letter B and blah, 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 and then it's like, okay, well, I don't know, what the fuck is a B word that we did? I haven't done B yet. If I'm doing like the letter I, igloo, and most of the class, but this little pocket right here, I just go right up to them. I'm like, igloo. And they're like, igloo. And I'm like, thank you for participating. And they're like, oh my God, he's not mad anymore. And it's like just figuring out the nuances of how to maneuver through that kind of a social space, understanding that they're 5, 6 years old. I'm not negotiating with adults. It's this whole other thing. So my days are long and exhausting. despite the fact that I could nap at lunch, I don't, but then half the time on the bus home, I'm like nodding off with how tired I am, but then I get home and I'm awake again. I'm like, it's almost 9 right now, and as soon as I wrap this shit up, I'm going to bed. Um, my Friday is a longer day again. I think 1 English class and then 3 gym classes in a row. And the last one, I have a gym class the last period of Friday. They don't want to be there. I barely want to be there. Um, and then in 2 or 3 weeks, I've got my open week where I'll be observed through PE. And the week after that, I want to try and organize an American Gladiator themed week reminiscent of what I did with sports camp 16 years ago, where I want to replace all of the things that I do for that week with like an American Gladiator themed obstacle course. I got to figure out if I can do that by myself just for my kids, or if I can talk the PE department into rewarding their kids with something like this for that. So we'll see. But I like the idea of that a lot. But yeah, 46 minutes. That's my update. That's what I've been up to. Um, Hi, Grandma. I miss you. Hi, Mom and Dad. I miss you. Hi, Eric. Hi, everybody. Um, yeah, okay. This is my first of either one or many vlogs, and we'll see.